Now I know what you might be thinking. Free money. This better not be clickbait. Well, today's your lucky day because you're about to find out how you can cash in by making the same purchases you were gonna make already. How? Welcome to the dojo. I am the Shifu. And the lesson begins now. Business credit cards. What are they and why aren't you already using them? I think the answer to this question is pretty simple. Most people don't fully understand or grasp what credit is, how to utilize it, and the pros and cons of it. So let's start at the very beginning. Credit cards. Understanding the pros and cons of credit cards is very important for understanding why you need to get a business credit card. A lot of people don't fully understand or they treat it like it's basically someone gave them a loan of money that they can spend however they want. They know they have to pay it off, but some people don't. Some people leave a balance every month. But you have to understand what is the best case and worst case scenario of the credit card. Why should you get the credit card? You should not get a credit card if what you're aiming for is a loan of money that you think that you are not going to have to pay off. That is not a reason to get a credit card. It's not to extend your current funds because you don't want to spend any more than you can actually pay off. And there's a very good reason for this. Because first off, think about a bank's best case scenario and why they give you or incentivize giving you a credit card. If you ever noticed, almost every business wants to give you a credit card. Airlines want to give you a credit card, hotels want to give you a credit card, gas stations want to give you a credit card, every beauty station wants to give you a credit card, everybody and their mother wants to give you a credit card. And the reason for this is because they make money off of you when you don't pay it off. So just by carrying the card and carrying a balance on it, there's usually a pretty hefty APR. So the interest that you have to pay on the balance that you keep on the card. And they're hoping that you don't pay that off because the interest is usually somewhere absurd, like 20%, 25%. It's something ridiculous that you would never want to pay off the total balance. And the more you're spending and keep on that card, the worse it's going to be. But that's only if you do not pay it off. So that's the best case scenario for a bank is you constantly leave a balance on a card that you are paying because if you can't pay it, then they just lose the money, and they'll cancel your account or whatever. But they hope that you are paying it, but you're not paying the full balance. So you're consistently paying them interest. And that's how they make money, is off that interest. But to incentivize you to get the card in the first place, they need to give you benefits, basically, or at least for the good cards. The cards that have the large annual fee. There's various cards, they'll have a system for it, where you'll get various bonuses and rewards for having the card. And that is what I'm talking about here when I talk about free money, is essentially what you're aiming for is two things, and that is the points and the perks. Those are two things you want out of a credit card. And if you get those two things and you're smart about it, you will get so much benefit from these cards that it's ridiculous. We're talking about at a certain point, you may even be able to, and I know people like this who have utilized this fully, you may even be able to pretty much fly or travel anywhere for free. Cover your hotels, your flights, just through the points alone because of how much money you're spending. You're getting back a percentage of that. Let's start off with talking about points. What are points? Because not all points are the same. But first you have to understand what points are, how this does not affect you or benefit you as a business. First of the matter is points aren't money in the sense that you would think about money. Think about like when you go to something like Chuck E. Cheese's and you play a game and they give you tickets. You trade in those tickets to get a stuffed animal or whatever. It's like that. Some people go to Chuck E. Cheese and pay the money to win the tickets to earn the stuffed animals, but that's not the approach you're going to take. The approach you should be taking is, I'm going to play these games anyway, and if I happen to get tickets and stuff for winning games that I would be playing anyway, then I get gifts for doing something I was already going to do. And that's essentially how credit cards are meant to be used correctly. You're supposed to, in order for you to get the maximum benefit, which is, remember I told you that the credit card company doesn't want, like they want you to just spend the card, not use the benefits, and that's how they get paid. But they lose money or they pay you money when you use all the perks and you get the maximum redemption out of the points. So the points is a percentage of what you spend. You spend $1 and sometimes you get 2%, 5%, whatever percentage. And that percentage converts into a specific amount of cents. So it could be 1.25 cents per dollar spent. It could be that 1% or that 2%. So it just depends on the bank, and it depends on the redemption, how you redeem it. In this case, we're going to mostly be talking about redeeming for travel, because most of the time, at least for the big banks like Chase and Amex, to get the maximum value out of your cards, you have to redeem them for travel, basically, through their travel portals or by using transfer partners to things like Hyatt or American Airlines. Depending on the transfer partner, you could be getting as much as 2 cents per point, which is very high. That's a pretty high percentage. And actually, that's not even the maximum. Some people are getting as high as 5 cents per point just by using transfer partners correctly. So this is insane, basically. I know it may sound like jargon. Once you start learning about how the points redemptions work, you'll understand that that's a really high value for the points you're getting. It means that you're able to convert the points you got from paying or spending groceries or whatever into a trip to a 4 or 5-star hotel. And that's basically the end goal here for the most part. So the kind of cards that you're gonna want to look at for that redemption is most likely going to be, it depends, because it depends if you already have a card system. But let's just talk about the preferred. The Chase Ink Preferred. That's mostly a travel card, but you'll get a certain amount, about 3 times back, UR points, when you spend on things like advertising, when you spend on things like shipping. As you're beginning to understand, a lot of times, for business, you're gonna have to spend on advertisement and shipping anyway, especially if you're doing inventory, but advertisement, everybody has to spend on advertisement. Now, there are specific categories under that, like it has to be social media advertisement, but if it's something you are already spending exuberant amounts of money in, a lot of people spend thousands on advertising. Use a business credit card for that, rather than just paying directly from the bank. Because when you pay directly from the bank, you get nothing. You get nothing in return, you just paid for it. But when you pay with the business credit card, you're racking up points, and eventually that points can be used to stay at a Hilton, or to take a trip to Florida or Cancun. So you get what I'm saying here, And so that's the first half of the strategy is you're trying to figure out what you spend or what you normally would buy for your business. You apply for a business credit card. You're gonna need an EIN for that, but it's not that hard to get an EIN, especially if you're a sole proprietor. It's super easy. Anyone can get it right away. You're gonna want to figure out what you're gonna be spending on. I would start with the non-annual fee card, because unless you are very particular about the kind of cards that you're going to get and looking into all the benefits, if you're not going to maximize that, you might as well just get like a regular non-annual fee card just until you get the hang of it. It's not going to cost you anything, because you only want to get cards like that if the value exceeds how much you're spending per year on that card. So that's one thing. Second thing is, and I want to reiterate this because a lot of people do not follow this rule. Do not use this like a loan, okay? Now, with Amex, they have charge cards, so technically you can't really leave a balance on there. But with Chase, you can leave a balance on the card. It's a traditional credit card. But you do not want to be leaving balances on there, because you're going to be looking, unless you have 0 APR. If you have 0 APR, then fine. That's a grace period. You can kind of maybe use that as a loan. Like, I'm going to spend it here. Then when I make the money back selling inventory and stuff like that, then I'm going to pay off the card then. So you can kind of use it as a way to kind of like buy certain inventory and maybe have like, a 6 month to a year grace period of not having to pay interest on that amount that you just left in the card. That's the only time that you can really flex that. But for the most part, if it's a card you're having long term, you don't have a grace 0 APR, you're going to be paying like a 20-25% APR, and that's a very high APR. You do not want to be making huge purchases and paying that much interest on that. It's going to be insane, thousands. So just don't do it. So that's the whole first strategy, is the point redemptions. You want to take advantage of that. I personally recommend you mostly go with Chase to start with. It's just their system's so much easier, and you can combine points across the board, even with your regular everyday points. Don't be afraid about transferring and using points, because for the most part, points are not money. Like, they're non-taxable. They're more so considered a rebate. Now, that does not count for points you get out of when you refer a referral. So it does not count towards referrals, because referrals, unlike when you get a bonus and you have to hit a certain spend to get a point bonus on a card, or any points that you get from spending, a referral you get literally just from signing up because someone referred you. They do count that as cash or as income. They count it as income and they will tax it. So you gotta be careful about that, because you don't want to start mixing your business and personal stuff. So I recommend you stick to the regular points, the sign up bonus points, the points you normally get. Maybe get a personal card. I mean, you could use the preferred. I personally have a reserve, and then I have the ink preferred. You can transfer points from those into the reserve, and you're gonna get even more back from doing that. Now, I know not everybody wants to get the reserve right now, because it's like, what is it, like they increased it to like $550 a year annual fee. So not everyone wants to get the reserve. I still see value out of the reserve, because if you haven't noticed, I'm a credit card guy. I look into all the details of credit cards I get for the most part, and I'm usually very calculative of what kind of cards I'm using or getting and how I'm going to use them, so I can get the maximum benefit. I'm going to say that you want to focus mostly on non-fee cards, and if you get a fee card, make sure you research it. Now, the second thing you want to think about is the perks and the benefits. Possibly one and the same, but what I'm talking about here is a lot of cards have perks, and they're getting fancier and fancier with them, but they also are getting kind of hard to use because there's so many perks nowadays. The Amex, don't even get me started on the Amex Platinum. I'm getting that card right now, actually, and it's like, I can't figure out how I'm going to use some of these credits. Like there was like a 200 soul cycle credit. How the heck? I'm not going to use that, but most of the other things I'm going to get value out of, so it's worth having a card. I mean, yeah, sticking with the platinum, it's going to give me a Hilton Gold and a Marriott Gold, status at those hotels, which is fantastic. That plus the lounges, I use the lounges all the time. I'm going to get access to the Centurion lounges. It's a win-win for me. I'm definitely going to be traveling a lot more, so that's going to be a huge bonus. But so those are kind of perks you want to be looking into with your cards. But there's lesser ones like auto insurance coverage. Use a certain card, like the preferred card, to pay for a rental. You could get insurance on that. You have to refuse their insurance, and you have to use just a card, and then you can get insurance coverage on that car, collision insurance. And depending on the card, I can't remember off the top of my head if the preferred is like this or if it's the reserve. But depending on the card, it'll either be primary or secondary. Best case scenario, you get a card with primary auto insurance, which means that it's not even going to go through your insurance company at all. And that is fantastic. You want to use that all the time, as long as you have coverage for it. Another thing is, they have different benefits, like, an Uber credit. It may give you an annual or monthly Uber credit, so you get that. You could have DoorDash. I've been using a DoorDash credit for the past 2 years on these cards. You can get insurances for your cell phone if it gets any damages. I mean, you get the gist. It's basically the card comes with a whole bunch of perks that you could be using every day for various things, business related, but this also applies for personal cards, of course. What I'm saying is, you should get these for your business, because you're going to get points and you're going to be able to use these benefits on occasion, when a situation occurs. And you want to start that early, because you want to start being able to build up the points, understand how the cards work and things like that. The earlier you start, the earlier you can start compiling those points. And there's really no downside to that. If you're getting a no annual fee card and starting early on, and you're using it to spend for stuff you're already going to spend, you're paying it off regularly every month, and you're getting those points back, you lose nothing. The points are literally just money on the table to use. It's incredible. I mean, that's basically the system. You want to apply for these business cards as early as you're able. Now, do be careful. There are a couple stipulations with this. Make sure that you're not using your personal, that it's not tying to your personal credit too much. I mean, it could, but then it's kind of like the separation of the cards from your person. It can affect your personal credit if you're not paying these off and you're not doing things correctly. That's one thing. Another thing, don't get a card or use a card up to a limit that you're not comfortable with. I'm just gonna say that hands down, you're gonna end up spending way more over time and suffering much higher consequences credit-wise than had you just, any benefit you can get from the card if you're not gonna be responsible with it. But if for those who are responsible with credit cards, get a business credit card. You will thank me later. It works. It's fantastic. I've taken numerous trips. I've covered an entire trip to New Zealand using just credit card points. I've covered countless other flights, hotel stays, rentals, car rentals, just using credit card points for the most part. And I've used that collision insurance, a bunch of times. Not to mention, and I only just realized this because I wasn't looking at all the updates on my cards. One of my cards comes with 2 or 3 free tows. So I mean, it just gets better and better, but you gotta pay attention to this stuff, and you gotta really get into it. So that has been a lesson from the Shifu. If you want to find out way more about credit cards and how they work, what cards you should be getting, you gotta sign up for the channel of Credit Shifu. Us Shifus have to stick together, and that guy, I've been watching him for years. It's how I got as good as I am. Understanding how credit cards work and how to be utilizing them, and he's just the guy that you want to go to and learn from when it comes to credit. And I think his credit score is like 830, 850. I mean, obviously he knows what he's talking about. So, lesson over.